Marhaba, and hello once again. I'm American historian Dr. Jack Dempsey. Today is Saturday, April 5th, 2025, and I'm here with, as usual, my good friend and brother, Muhammad Jihad Ismael, a writer and historian from Gaza living in Deir al Balah. The situation, as you can imagine, is very bad there, and we should talk about that for a minute, Mohammed. But today, our main subject we hope to get to through the difficulties of Zoom is Palestinian and, in general, resistance literature, writings about the resistance to illegitimate power. So we hope to get into that. But Mohammed, my brother, hello. We're glad to hear that all your family is well and your situation is very difficult. You have enough stores of food in your home for a little bit of time to survive the Israelis' total blockade of food, water, medicine, and everything else that makes life go. But the Israelis' 36th Division, a very fearsome military unit, has invaded Rafah to the south of you, driving the many refugees in Rafah northward toward Deir al Balah and into Balah. And meanwhile, all the Palestinians who were driven back into the north of Gaza a few weeks or a month or so ago are now being forced back into the south. So there is Muhammad right in the middle of these two colossal migration forces, and Balah is basically exploding with people. And the other guests in town are dozens of Israeli tanks, dozens of Israeli soldiers on the one hand, unleashing random violence wherever they please. And then there is the civil war between different Palestinian factions who are fighting with guns and grenades and every other thing they can lay hands on against each other in the streets around Muhammad. So it's hard for anybody outside of that place to imagine the dangers, the violence, the worries, the tension, and it's simply impossible. Muhammad, I'll stop now. I just want to say, how are you, brother? You have a newborn girl named Mary, a beautiful young baby girl, and she appears to be is doing as well as can be expected. Also, your wife Gala is recovering from her cesarean section, delivering in birth. But how are things with you, Muhammad, directly there in your house, where you make sure to keep away from the windows? You do not even look out because you would become a target for somebody or somebody else. How are you doing, brother?
Hello, brother. I am happy to be talking with you today. It's okay, brother. We are good right now, despite all the hardship. We are doing our best in order to keep our survival and to keep our souls good. Uh, Situation is very, very terrible outside, as you just mentioned. We have a lot of chaos. Israelis are shelling from sky, from ground, from sea. We have civil war. Families are fighting with Hamas. We have guerrilla war in the streets. A lot of Palestinians are fighting with guns and grenades. It's a very, very bad situation. Even when you have some injuries, some dead people, there is no fuel for the ambulances to let them move. So those injured people, those killed people are taken to hospitals through carts pulled by animals, you know. So it's very, very primitive life, very, very complicated situation. Yeah, here inside the house, we are afraid all the time from the shrapnels, which are flying everywhere. Whenever you have bombing, those shrapnels are flying hundreds of meters away. You know, they are
Yes,
flying, throwing, yeah, themselves in the sky. They are moving hundreds of meters, and sometimes, you know, we have those shrapnels were infiltrating our windows. breaking our windows and coming inside, you know. So it's a very, very horrible situation right now here in Balah.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can see a photo of some of these huge chunks of razor sharp, twisted steel from the casings of artillery shells and bombs that have penetrated Muhammad's house. A piece once landed in between the heads of his wife and his son, right on the pillow between their heads. The situation could hardly be more dangerous. And every time Muhammad must go out to find a bottle of water, to find some canned food, it has always been to take his life in his hands. And now, as you just heard, it is probably worse than ever. We're not even sure if he would be able to safely go out and come back again to get more food. It's just one shakes their head and say, well, what do the Israelis expect to happen? And the answer can only be as dark as possible. They are pushing all the Palestinians from the north and the south into the middle and pushing that group, the millions of people, millions, to the west, toward the sea, away from the eastern border where they are contiguous with Israel itself, trying to stop the flimsy, ridiculous, harmless Hamas rockets, and trying to drive Hamas into the open where they can all be killed, as if this would be the end of resistance. It is a fantasy because the Palestinians will not leave their land. They will find ways to resist. But Muhammad, what do you feel? What do you think? What do you see as this situation becomes worse and worse?
Yes. Unfortunately, the situation is getting more worse. You know, we cannot expect anything good for the future. From time to time, we have bad consequences. The situation is getting more worse. Unfortunately, I am depressed because I saw the people evacuating again. Now we have a lot of people are leaving Rafah, leaving northern Gaza. A lot of crowds of people are coming here to central Gaza, to the middle of Gaza Strip. You know, it's a very, very, very depressing scene. When you see it, you believe really that there is no end for this miserable war. You know, yeah. So unfortunately, situation is bad. It will be more worse in the future. For me, I cannot expect anything good for the coming few weeks or months.
And in recent months, increasingly right up till today, Israel from time to time has mentioned that they are thinking about creating programs whereby Palestinians who want to leave could emigrate to other countries. How they would facilitate that, we don't know. With people so terribly crowded in central Gaza, how would people make such arrangements? Where would they go? Where are they to go until then? And there can just be no good result from any of this unless they bring a great flotilla of ships to the shore and start pushing and loading Palestinian people onto the ships to take them. They don't know where. It is a worse Nakba than the first one. It is already much, much worse, just in the sheer mathematics of it, than the original 1948 displacement of Palestinians. Do you hear people talking, Muhammad? What do they expect? What do they hope? What are they afraid of? What do they think is going to happen from all this?
Of course, all the time people are talking about this issue. They are talking that we are going to have immigration. We will be forced to immigrate by the Israelis. And people are portraying a lot of scenarios for this immigration. Some of them are believing that we will be pushed towards Egypt. Others are believing that we will be taken by ships through the Mediterranean. So we have a lot of scenarios are drawn, are portrayed at the minds of the people. Right the moment, Egyptian army is deploying a huge amount of tanks and the troops at
Yes.
Sinai Peninsula. They are conveying a message to the Israelis, maybe to the Americans, that we are not going to let Palestinians go out through Sinai. Yeah. So we don't know. We are perplexed. We don't know whether this immigration will happen or not. And if it happen, we don't know it will happen by which way, through Sinai, through the sea, through other ways. Right now, we don't know.
The average household around the world, Muhammad, does not deal very well with uncertainty when you don't know where your electricity is coming from, your water, your food supply, your personal safety, your ability to move around and accomplish the things that life requires you to do. There is no comparison whatsoever with the situation that the Gaza Palestinians are in, and it's growing worse by every day in the West Bank as well. This is the great moment that Israel has been working for so many decades, to finish the complete destruction of Palestine, to get rid of the last Palestinian people, and to take advantage of the chaos that they have created. So it seems that within a very near future, something tremendous is going to happen one way or another. It's just a very
Yes,
terrifying time.
yes, yes.
So, brother, on that note, would you like to talk to us from your Gaza historian's point of view about the literature of resistance? What are the writings and works that you take comfort from, perhaps? What are the most interesting works that you know about in the idea of resistance? Please share all you wish with us. And I have some analogs. I'm a professor of early American studies, and I know the literature of Native American peoples very well. And I always see parallels between two peoples who have been genocided, mass murdered, displaced from their land, colonized, and how they write about their situation and how they keep their lives, their bodies, and their souls alive. What to you is some of the most important resistance literature, Muhammad?
Yeah. Uh, uh, the resistance literature is a very, very important literary genre, especially in the oppressed countries, the oppressed nations. It is the literature which is being written by the colonized, by the oppressed, by the genocided, by the occupied, by the repressed nations, peoples, countries. Of course, we have a lot of people who wrote this sort of literature. We have, as you mentioned, the native people of America. We have the oppressed nations in Africa. Who suffered from the French and the British colonization. We have the oppressed nations in the East, in Asia, and in the Middle East. We have a lot of nations and countries who wrote this sort of literature. Even if you go to Europe, the French people used to write it when France was invaded by the Nazi army. The Scandinavian people in the north, Norway, Sweden, etc., used to write it when Hitler army was invading the Scandinavia. A lot of nations used to write this sort of literature. When you write the literature of resistance, you are conveying the message of your oppressed people. You are conveying their voice through your writings. You are talking about the suffering of your nation, how they are suffering, how they were killed, tortured, robbed by the colonization and occupation. So you are lawyer. You are lawyer trying to search for the rights of your nation, trying to achieve the justice and search for the justice of your own people and nation. Palestinians, I think, are the pioneers of this sort of literature because Palestine right now is the last still occupied country. Palestine, this moment, is the last. Unfortunately, this world, this crazy world, who pretends the human rights, the justice, the civilization, unfortunately, right now, they are letting Israelis occupy and repress this country, Palestine, which is the last and the final still occupied country. Palestinians are the pioneers of this sort of literature. Yeah. If we want to talk about the pioneers inside Palestine, we have a very extended list of writers, poets, novelists, short story writers, dramatists, etc. We have a lot, very, very long list. Palestinians used to write this sort of literature since the 30s of the last century. So
Yes.
before Nakba, exactly during the British Mandate, we have the first or the early Palestinian writings, which belongs to this sort of literature.
Yes, and one of the central aspects of resistance literature is dependent on the situation of the person or people who are resisting. In other words, some people who are involved in resistance to colonization, they stay in place and they fight and they try to hold on to their land and their culture, and they tell from the inside of themselves what values they believe in, why they are holding on so tight, why they cannot be defeated. And on another side, there is the resistance literature of people who have emigrated, people who have run away for one necessity or another from their native land and then write the story of their native land while they are somewhere else. And they write what they remember of the old life. They write about the character of the civilization that they used to know that was taken away from them. So, Muhammad, what to you is the most interesting aspect of resistance literature? And can you perhaps talk about a specific book and a specific writer?
Yeah. Uh, Before answering this question, let me tell you that the main goal of this sort of literature, at least here in Palestine, is the restitution of the rights, restitution of the rights.
Yes.
Searching for the rights, bringing the rights of your own people. Whenever your people whenever your people were expelled outside of their lands, their territories were robbed, they were expelled, they were killed, they were massacred. Here you have to search for the restitution of the rights of those people. So I think this is the most important goal or target for this sort of literature. The resistance literature is a sort.
Oh, I think you have frozen, Mohammed. Ladies and gentlemen, as you probably know from many of our programs, the signal from Balah is problematic, to say the least. It's a problem I do not have using Zoom involving any other country. So we believe it is either Hamas or Israel or the United States or all three or some mixture thereof that does not want Muhammad to be communicating with the outside world. As you can see, he has frozen. No doubt he is trying to get back online. Let's see what happens for a minute. It looks as though this might say, okay, there we go. We have lost Muhammad altogether. But I think within less than a minute, we will see him reappear and perhaps we can continue. We hope you will bear with this, if you will, drama that happens all too often and more often during our attempts to produce these programs to let you know what is happening from inside Gaza right now. So while we wait for Muhammad, I'd just like to share two bits of information. If you go to Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com, Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com, you can see a beautiful photo or two of Muhammad's family's new baby named Mary. She was born on February 27th. You can see many pages of their life there in Balah from before October 7th, 23, all the way up until today. The beauty of their family, of their children, of their will and wish to survive, the different ways they have escaped death and exile multiple times. And then we have a GoFundMe because Muhammad, here he comes, has created a GoFundMe to try to raise the money so that their whole family can emigrate toward a future. It is called Support Muhammad Ismael and His Children at GoFundMe. Anybody who can give and share at as little as $10 would be helping immensely toward that goal. If and when the Israelis open up the doors, open up some kind of program that would allow people to make that emigration. Because this family has young children. They do not think there will be any kind of livable future for those children within decades of life in Gaza if they manage to stay there. So you personally, you want to do something, this is the direct and the most real way that can happen, at least right now. We can't send them a book. We can't send them a sweater. We can't send them food. Nothing except a little bit of money that could build them a future. So please consider that, and you'll see direct links under more here with the video. So Muhammad, as we talk about resistance literature, you're talking about keeping hope alive, remembering what really used to be, and keeping that memory alive for a time in the future when the colonizers will fail, when this period of war and attack and exploitation will end. And maybe then out of the memories in this book or that book that resistance writers create, there can be a rebirth and a new beginning for a culture. Some of the great resistance writers from the movement once called Negritude, Aimé Césaire, Frantz Fanon, Edward Said, who is a famous Palestinian professor himself. These people have created a whole genre of modern literature built around the idea of resistance. Muhammad, specifically, is there a book or a writer that you look to mostly, that sustains your spirit, that keeps your resistance alive? Would you talk about somebody that really is a hero of the resistance and is writing about it?
Yeah, I think I have my friend, Salim al-Naffar, the great poet.
Your late friend.
Yeah, Salim was a very, very loud voice of this sort of literature. He used to write a lot of books, a lot of poems, specifically in this sort of literature. Yeah, Salim was a very, very important example. Yeah, and today I want to talk about his brilliant book, Narrow Window on Happiness. Narrow Window on Happiness,
okay,
is a very, very important book. I read it and I wrote about it so many articles. And I am sad that right now those people who translate from Arabic literature to other languages, I am so sorry. I am so sad that such a book is forgotten, is neglected. I think this book this book deserves to be translated to dozens of languages. It's a very important symbol of this sort of literature.
Yes,
Yeah,
and let me refer people just quickly at jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com, jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com. You can see pages, multiple pages of Salim's poetry, translated by Muhammad into English and nudged and massaged into better English by myself. It is visionary, it is luminous, it is like a tiger coming after the realities inside and outside of this man. He was killed along with his whole family, murdered in their home in northern Gaza more than a year ago. Their bodies have still yet, of course, to be retrieved. But he and Muhammad, Salim al-Nafar and Muhammad, were very close friends, like brothers. Muhammad, the historian, Salim, the poet. And they would have coffee together and talk about all kinds of things. And Muhammad, what to you is most important about Salim's example in his life, in his work? Talk more about what his idea of resistance is, what he is trying to give the Palestinian people and the world.
yeah. Salim was always, through his literature resistance, trying to give the Palestinians a push forward, giving them the hope to fight for a better future. He was asking them not to surrender, not to give up, and to try more and more until achieving the Palestinian goals, until making the Palestinian state. Until restituting all the stolen rights from the Palestinian people. Yeah, Salim was very smart. Always he was trying in his literature to differentiate between two things, between the resistance and terrorism. He used to believe that terrorism is something very bad. We have to distinguish between resistance and terrorism. He was against hatred. He was against the bad ideas which some people are doing now. He was against the actions of Hamas, killing the babies, killing the elder people, kidnapping them, making sexual violations against the Israeli settlers. He was against what Hamas did in the so-called October 7th attack. Yeah, Salim was a very bright symbol of this sort of literature. And from here, I am making invitation for the people who translate from Arabic literature. Please try to translate the heritage of this great man. I think his literature deserves to be translated into so many different languages: English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish,
Yeah.
Japanese, etc. Yeah, it should be translated. This
And
man
Muhammad,
was killed. Yeah, yes,
what you mentioned that the title of his book about his life is called A Narrow Window on Happiness. How do you say the title in Arabic so people will know? It is only in Arabic right now. What is the title in Arabic so people will know to try to find that book and to begin some translation? What is the title in Arabic?
Yeah, نافذة ضيقة على الفرح. نافذة ضيقة على الفرح. Yeah, narrow window on happiness. He was describing his life. His life was full of pains. He didn't witness a lot of happiness during his 60 years of life.
And it seems, Muhammad, that from his poetry that I have read, as you say, he does not respect violence even though the Palestinians have the right by any means to resist their invasion and colonization and genocide, he does not believe in following that path. Instead, it's like the things that he writes about the human heart, the Palestinian heart and soul. He wants most of all to keep that alive until the outside situation changes. Would you say that's correct? And how important is his work to Palestinians who want to keep their spirits alive in such a terrible time?
Yes, yes, brother. Salim message was the same message of Jesus the Christ. He used to believe that love is the medicine. Love is the medicine of all the pains, of all the diseases. Yeah, yeah. He used to overlap with the same message of our Lord, the Christ, you know.
Yep.
Love is the medicine. Love is the medicine of all the pains, all the diseases. Yeah, this was the message of Salim in his poetry, in his prose. Yeah.
And that's even more remarkable a message, seeing that his boyhood was so unbelievably poor. He grew up in what, Latakia in southern Lebanon, a refugee camp there. They had nothing, nothing. And somehow he came to manhood, took care of his family, survived these things, and then even found a way to write about and communicate his ongoing spirit of resistance. So he was a resistance figure who does not approve of violent struggle. What can you talk about? You talked with him so many times. How did he envision that the Palestinian situation would change?
Yeah, yeah. He believed in the violent resistance, but he doesn't believe that this act of resistance should be targeting the civilians. If you have to fight, you have to head against a garrison, against a strong point for the Israeli army. You have to shoot at them, not to shoot at civilians are sitting inside restaurant, having their meal, sitting inside a car. You know, to shoot at people are sitting inside their school, their kindergarten. These are crimes. These are atrocities, not resistance. You know. Also, I have the same ideology. I have the same thought of Salim. We have to differentiate between resistance and terrorism. What Hamas is doing now is terrorism, not resistance. It is an act of thugism, thuggish, you know.
But how would Salim and how do you think about this problem? That one of the reasons that October 7th was so harmful to Israelis in the kibbutzes, the kibbutzim, the settlements around the edge of Gaza, is that in all empires, in all colonial operations, and this happened in early America too, the empire that is reaching out to steal the land, to remove the natives and steal the land, they would put their families on the front lines to become traders and hunters and trappers. But there were women and children there, so that when trouble started, it was the women and children who paid for the terrible colonization with their lives. And that is what Hamas did on October 7th. Neither one of us, Muhammad, not you nor I, would support what they have done. But do you really see those families as innocent? They have guns. They have taken the land. They are putting down roots that say it will never again be Palestinian land. Do you see them as innocent? Because the Israelis themselves call the settlers the internal army. They are the second army, which is going to help us conquer the landscape. Do you see them as innocent?
Yeah, I think this is like the worship of status. I think it is some sort of paganism, paganist stereotyping, you know, to create a stereotype like a god and to worship and to pray to this god. You have created this God with your hands. I mean the stereotype, and you pray to it. You worship it. It's so silly phenomenon.
I don't
It's very
understand.
silly.
I,
It is
I,
a very silly.
I'm
Yeah.
asking you, are the settlers innocent? Are the
Yes.
people, the
Yes.
families who come to take over the land and to make farmland, are they
Yes.
innocent or are they part of extending the colonization?
Yes. They are innocents. They are innocents.
You mean they
When
don't know
you,
what they are doing?
yeah, part of them don't know. If you look to the people who were killed by Hamas, you will find that most of them were children and women and elders. Most of them were civilians, innocent people. Look to the people who were kidnapped by Hamas. We have 251. 251 were taken hostage. If you look to the release of those hostages, what you can see? You can see that most of the released hostages are women, elders, more than 80 years old.
But
Yeah,
are they unconscious of what they are doing for the
even,
colonizing?
even,
They do not
even,
realize what they are doing. That sounds hard to believe, Mohammed.
yeah. Even if they know what are they doing? Yeah. Is it acceptable to murder them, to kill them, to take them hostages, even if they know that they are settlers and stealing the Palestinian lands? Yeah. Is this giving you the right to kill them?
No, I would not say so, but we must also look very with open eyes at the dynamics of what is happening. The Israeli government themselves plant and help to build and finance these kibbutzim to put families in between the enemy and the cities of Israel and the population of Israel, so that when trouble happens, the women and the children die, and then the colonizing forces have even more reason to go in and punish and kill and genocide all over the place. It's a very ruthless, cold, cynical business, what they have set up to conquer Palestine.
Yes, yes.
How does one resist that? What
Yeah,
does the
for
literature
me,
say about how to resist that?
yes, brother. For me, I refuse this sort of stereotyping. We shouldn't make a judge, make a stereotype, make a strict stereotype that those people are sinners and they must be killed, they must be executed.
No one is
I
saying
am
that.
against, yeah, I am against making the stereotyping. I have to tell you something important. Most of Gaza people who are working inside Israel, who are earning a lot of money and bringing good income to their families inside Gaza, they are working at these kibbutzes surrounding to Gaza. So if you want to boycott those settlers, don't go and work with them. Don't go to work with them. Don't get money from them. When you are patient, don't send your wife who is patient to the Israeli hospitals in those kibbutzes. Don't send her to take medical treatment. You have to boycott them because they are enemies. You have to be clear in a very clear decision whether you are with them or against them. Don't go to work with them. Don't send your wife or
I
your
understand.
children to have medical treatment for free without money at their hospitals. You have to be clear in your position, whether you are with them or against them. Don't go to murder them in these massacres, and after that to justify what you did, that they are settlers. Yeah, they
Okay.
are settlers. You
Okay.
are going to work with them.
Okay, Muhammad, as our time begins to go, is there perhaps another writer of the resistance literature of Palestine that you would very much like people to know about? Who is another important writer of
I
the
want to tell
Palestinian
you,
resistance?
yeah. Of course, we have the great poet Mahmoud Darwish, the great poet Mahmoud Darwish. He is the most famous Palestinian writer. Some critics him the poet of the Palestinian revolution because he so many powerful poems starting from the 70s of the last century until his death. He used to write a lot of resounding and powerful poems for the Palestinian revolution.
And what was his message, Muhammad? What was he asking people to feel, to think about, and to do in their
Yeah,
resistance?
yeah. He was asking people to keep resistance, not to stop, not to surrender. Also, he was that you have not to seek death, not to seek death. You have to search for life. You have to search for life. And he was, of course, calling for the coexistence, not sweeping the Israelis to the Mediterranean. He was calling for coexistence. This holy land should embrace all the humans, all the people, whether they are Muslims, Jews, or Christians, because it is a holy land for the three religions. You know, it
Yeah.
is a message of unity, not a message of separation.
And tell us his name again, Muhammad.
The great poet Mahmoud Darwish.
Mahmoud Darwish. Do you think his work is in English anywhere?
Of course, his works are translated maybe to more than 30 languages. He is well known and so famous.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe we should finish today and have a second program about resistance literature, and you can tell us even more about the works, the writings that mean the most to your Palestinian heart in terms of how to resist without losing your own soul, your own human heart and spirit.
Okay, brother. Yeah, I
Anything
will
you
be
want to
ready
add
for
today?
part two. Yeah, I will be ready for part two. I think it's important to complete our message and to talk more and more about this topic. Yeah, I will be ready. And next time, I will be talking also about my own works. I wrote a lot of books in this sort of literature.
Yes, and the most recent was called Fedai and the Sea. Fedai and the Sea, where you talk about how some Palestinians in 1948 left their homes by sea on ships to go to other places. And it's a very important document to tell their stories. And that in turn becomes a part of resistance literature. We remember what happened. We remember that we had a home and we remember how and why we lost it. This is the core, the central preoccupation of resistance literature. So I just want to thank everybody who's tuned in to share this discussion with us today, Muhammad. Please look under more for links as to how you can both see and get to know Muhammad's family and to help them through the GoFundMe with a mere sharing of $10 to help them get a future together for themselves. Brother, I thank you as always for talking with us. And we will see you very soon next time where we continue discussion of specific examples of Palestinian resistance literature. Anything you would like to say? Anything you would like to say, Muhammad, before we go? I'm not sure he's hearing me. Muhammad? Okay. Well, we'll close it there for today. We hope you'll join us again very
Yeah,
soon.
thank you, brother. I will for the next episode of our program, which will be this topic.
Okay, brother. Thank you very much. God bless all of you. Please stay safe. And again, thank you to our audience for sharing this with us today. Okay? Okay.